Hello, thanks, Leaf and Justin. I'm going to talk about the SRU desktop tool and then also the SRU footprinter web tool. I'll start off with the desktop tool. So the purpose of it is to provide a desktop CED tool that CED data providers can utilize to assign SRUs to corresponding efforts for single effort edits or batch upload workflow. The tool converts points, lines, and polygons to this SRU polygon standard format. And users not going through the batch upload process can also use this tool to determine what SRU matches their projects or efforts of interest, and they could use that information then to use the SRU footprinter web tool for single record entry, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And then for users who don't want to use go this desktop route, they can use the eyeball method, which I call it, by using a basic ArcGIS Online interactive map link that is provided in the SRU desktop tool help document. And that map to do the eyeball method is an ArcGIS Online map that can be seen here. So if you're looking for that link in the help document, it's right here in the before you begin section. So we'll get to the help document in a second. So the output of this process for the desktop tool can be used in the SRU batch upload process that Justin's going to talk about in detail here. And then also you can, if you don't want to go through the batch upload process, again, those results can be guide you through using the SRU footprinter web tool. So now that we got that out of the way, I'm going to open up, I'm going to bring your attention to the Sciencebase page where you can download the tool and the help document and some test data. This is a password protected page. Feel free to get a hold of us and we'll get you access to this. It's very easy and painless. We just want it password protected. You can see we already have Megan available for that. And I have downloaded those 3 files into a folder that I just called test demo. And I'm going to unzip those. Extract here. And I'm going to go into this desktop tool one, and I'm going to copy this path. So with that path, I will now demonstrate using this tool in ArcGIS Pro. You can also use ArcMap to do this. And I'm going to use the blank template, catalog option. And when I have that catalog option open, I'm going to paste the path into there. And we can see there's the toolbox with a tool in the toolbox here. And I double click that, and it's as easy as that to open up. I can expand and contract that to view all the text. So the functionality that this includes here is it can run in ArcMap or Catalog or Arc Pro. I'm using Arc Pro here. It can accept shapefile format, file geodatabase format, and the tool is actually linked to the hosted feature layer, or some people call them map services, and Esri hosted on ArcGIS Online. So this is, you could think of it as the master SRU layer that gets utilized. So no downloading of data is necessary. We have a toggle option for advanced users, but we'll get into that in a little bit. And then the output of this will be a formatted SRU formatted file that matches the specifications needed for Justin's SRU batch upload process, and it will take into what the SRUs will be in that output file, or any SRU that overlaps the input features that you put into the tool. So it's pretty painless for anybody who wants it. If you want the advanced user, you have a little more flexibility on what SRUs get selected by the tool. That's an option too. So along with that, you can see there's these data validators, or you have to kind of forcing input of things. And then we have kind of smart drop-down menus too that correspond to data types, such as the date field selector. It will only show date field. So it gives a couple little nice things for anybody running the tool. Nice options. So before we get started here, I'm not going to get into how to create source data to put into this tool. All of you, that's pretty much, we kind of put a lot of responsibility on your data providers to actually create the source data, whether that's going into the normal CED or this tool. So the one thing I just want to remind folks is that we don't want to have any duplicate projects, that whether they're duplicate, we don't want projects or efforts counted twice in the system. We want to make sure whether that's internally or externally, just make sure you look at you're in communication with people that might have projects in overlapping areas of interest. Also, be aware that if some of your features in your input layer overlap an area that there is no SRU, then there will be no SRU in the output layer. So it's pretty self-explanatory. However, if you think this is an error, get a hold of us, Justin, myself, or Leaf, and we'll look into it and see and work with you to determine if there should be indeed an SRU created there. And then one thing of note too is there's required fields, and there'll be a project ID field, a name field, start date, end date, and a metric value field. Your data must have that for it to be input there. It's also required in Justin's batch upload process. So the final thing that I'll say is before you begin is polygons must have a max width greater than 16 meters. So 16 meters is pretty small, but we have run into occasions where people data providers have buffered a road that's very small, and because of the processing, we need it at least larger than 16 meters, the max width. So should be pretty easy for most folks. And I'm going to go ahead and do an example here of a run through of the tool. We'll go to that same general location, that test demo of a test data folder. We'll go ahead and select the test line, 1-to-1, and we're going to select a source ID field, a start date, and end date, and metric value for area, which will be acres, and that type is an acres, same as the field name, and then the name of each effort, and the output. I'm going to go ahead and put it here. Just call it output line .shp. We could put in a file geodatabase if we wanted, and I'm going to click run. So while that's cooking, some people have mentioned, have asked how long is this going to take to process. You can see here that it'll just take about less than a minute to process this in this scenario. If I have run 1,000 records, actually 999 records, and that took about 1 hour and 10 minutes. So it's a significant amount of time. You don't have to wait overnight. So that's a good thing, I guess. Okay. Alrighty, so we got our results there. And I'm going to go ahead and cheat here. I'm going to copy and paste the output file. I'm going to add a map, new map. Okay. There it is. And that. Again, you can use our map if you want instead. Also going to add the source data so we can compare. Just that line, test or line 1-to-1. And we can see the lines are the test data, and the layer called output line is the nicely formatted SRU data that overlaps our features of interest. Again, you can use points, lines, or polygons for those input features. I'm guessing most people will use polygons, but so you can see I'm toggling back and forth. We have, this is the output file. We have 4 features. And then the input layer was 4 features, which is a good sign. We had that unique ID 0 through 3. And that ID field is added here, along with some others that we selected in thing. So they're in the tool. So 1 through 3. That's good. Sometimes you always want to look at the number of record counts. If they don't match up, go to the help document. There, like I mentioned before, if your data does not overlap in an area where there is an existing SRU, then it's not going to get a result. But there is some other scenarios where you might not get a match, and the help document talks about that. One thing the help document also has, again, is that path to the hosted feature layer. And since ArcMap is very easy to add hosted feature layer data, you just paste that in there. And expand this, and we can see, I'll shrink this. We can see the nice host SRU, that's the master SRU data set. You can see all of them there. All right. Next, we're going to run through another scenario of using the polygon input layer that is overlapping multiple SRUs. And this test data here shows it, has it. Go ahead. You can see these are some obscure field names, but this just kind of proves the point that you can have many different field names, but you can select any one you want. This is the metric type, and then name 4. We're going to click the advanced output option. And this time we're going to call it output poly. And I like to close the map tab just to make sure that it doesn't load there when I don't want any layers don't load in there when I don't want it. So as this is cooking here, what gets produced when you click the advanced output option, if excuse me, if there is occurrences of features, in this case polygon features, overlapping multiple SRUs, then an intermediate shapefile. In this intermediate shapefile will have the suffix like recommended and not recommended edits, something like to that effect. We'll see it here in a minute. And it will give recommendations based on area. See, the tool just finished. And I'll show those recommendations now. Read the map. And in this case, take this off. We're going to add data. The intermediate file will be placed in the same place as the output layer. Sometimes you do have to click, you have to click it back here and get in there. Let's see. Oh. Okay, so if it's not listed there, sometimes ArcPro caches your data. You can actually go in and drag and drop the file in. Okay, there it gets loaded. So you can see it has the suffix recommended and not recommended edits. We'll also load the source data, test poly, test OR poly. I'm going to drag and drop that too. There it is. And I'm going to do some symbol. Actually, we don't need the original input data set. I guess we can look at, yeah. So that is overlapping the test recommended and not recommended layer. Close that. And I'm going to do some labeling and symbology to show the recommended and not recommended. Okay, so that was magic there. I used the magic of pausing recording. So I ordered the sum ID field here. You can see we have a field here that multi-SRU. It indicates whether it was a multiple SRU situation. In this case, for IDs 0, 2, and 1, 0, 1, and 2, there was no multiple SRU. However, we go to 3 and 4, and there was multiple SRUs. So there's the recommended field, and it is attributed based on each effort split by an SRU boundary, then regrouped temporarily by SRU area, and final recommended field is populated by, in the case of a polygon layer, the largest total area in an SRU gets recommended. For a line layer, the largest total length in an SRU gets recommended, and for a point layer, the greatest number of points in an SRU gets recommended. So you can see SRU is a multi-recommended. The majority SRU recommended is number 12. You can see it's number 12 Burns, and there I have symbolized this green as recommended. So that's how it works. One thing important is if you don't want to deal with any of this, all you have to do is not check that box, and the tool will take it to the next step and take the recommendations and give that to the final SRU output file. So that's how that works. Now, as far as there is some troubleshooting help documentation too. This, it's a new tool. We don't have a lot of users, but rest assured, if you have any fixes that you need, we'll get on them right away. So now I'm going to jump to the next topic, which is the SRU Footprinter web tool. And I'm going to log into the CED and bring up the CED website and bring up a new record entry page. So if you're not using the batch upload process, say you have less than 100 or so private land records, and you know your SRU, that you have a pretty good idea of the SRUs for your efforts, then you may want to opt for this single record edit option on the website. And we're going to create a new, go here and create a new project. So I'm going to go ahead and put a dummy record here in. I'm in a development or sandbox environment, you may see. Two, and I'm going to do a couple of things here. We'll select conifer removal. Now, Justin will probably talk about this in depth here, but if you select, does your effort occur on private lands, and if you select yes to obscure it, when you save and continue, you'll get to the SRU Footprinter web tool. It does take a minute to load. So once it loads, you can see it has in the upper right, it has a filter by state option. You'll want to do that right away. So you can select any of the states. It'll filter the GIS layer here, zoom to the GIS layer, and then in the drop down option, it'll filter for those respective projects too. And you can see thumbnails get loading. If you know your SRU ID, you can just scroll through the map, the drop down of the thumbnails, and select that, and you can see we're selecting it here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here so you see a little better. So if you don't like the idea of picking there, if you want to pick on a map, you can do that too. All right. And a couple other options. There is a base map selector. So if you want to use this to kind of fumble around, you can use, see the imagery. There's a couple fun new base maps that ESRI has produced. There's like a modern antique map you can do. Anyways, a bunch of different options. Again, you can use the pull down or click on the map. The one thing also I'll tell you, we have a lands layer, that's the BLM SMA layer, and the legend shows it all, what you need to know. So again, just a couple bells and whistles to give some context so you know where you're at, and you click save and go to the next step, and you're done. That's all I have. I will hand it over to Leaf and Justin to take it away. If they have any questions on these two tools, Leaf and Justin can field them, or feel free to email me at any time.